Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 123 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I'm your host, Mark Harris. And it's been a little bit, taking some time off from the podcast for a little bit, but wanted to touch base for the NFL draft and check in on where the men's basketball roster churn stands. Go over some other football stuff and check in on baseball as well. So probably going to be a short show, going to kind of jump around from topic to topic here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. Remember to follow the College Huddle. I'm going to try to do some more collaborations with people within the College Huddle podcast network in the summer. And let's roll. All right. NFL draft is on Thursday. I'm recording this on Tuesday, late afternoon. The big question is, where will Cam Skattebo get drafted? The Arizona State running back is widely projected to be in the third or fourth round. It would be great if he could somehow sneak into the bottom of the second round. I think that is the goal. Not that ASU has any control over that, but if some team at the end of the second round or higher, but that seems unlikely. But if he can get picked in the second round, that would be great. It would just be he deserves it, and two, it would just be a good showcase for him. So let's check in. I have an article from Sports Illustrated pulled up. Share screen. And here we go. Okay. So this is just kind of an aggregation. Now, granted, this was on a week before the draft, but I doubt it really changes much. CBS Sports has him at the top of the third round for New England. That would be an interesting fit. He would get a lot of opportunities there. I think New England isn't exactly loaded with running backs. They have Ramondre Stevenson, I believe, but he would get some attention, and that would be interesting. I have a few friends from ASU who are from the New England area, Patriots fans, and they would certainly appreciate it. So that's a good area for him. Cal Stackpole, also from CBS. So he thinks that the Raiders take T-Mac in the first and Luther. So he thinks they take two wide receivers and then get Skattebo in the top of the third round. I think that Skattebo on the Raiders would be hilarious. Kind of a Raider player. So top of the third round. That's a good outcome for him. Matt Miller, ESPN, has him 123rd in the fourth round. So I don't really get his analysis here because he says on Burns and Gambo, according to this quote, that like the 40 time doesn't really matter. Obviously, Skattebo ran like a 4.65 40, not blazing fast, but also good enough and kind of in the range of what everyone expected. Okay. I don't know why you'd have him going that late then, but that's where he has him, 123rd in the fourth round of the Steelers. You don't want him to follow the fourth round if you're ASU. I just don't. So, and again, this tweet is contradictory that he has. He had fourth round. So this was the day before or the day of the Texas game, January 1st. He has fourth round grades from scouts when I checked in last month, and then now he's going to face a great Texas defense. He did well against that Texas defense, both running and receiving the ball. So if you go into that game with him having a fourth round grade, he does well in that game. That should boost him up. So I'll say this, like a fourth round for Skattebo would be disappointing, I would say. You're definitely hoping he can go in at least the third round. And based on Matt Miller's analysis right here, if you can see on the YouTube recording, but His tweet reads that Cam Skattebo had a 4th-round grade from scouts when I checked in on him last month. Today, he'll face a Texas defense that's loaded with front 7 talent and is great against the run. It's allowed more than 150 yards once and held 7 opponents under 100 yards. I think he had like 143 yards and then like 99 yards receiving. So, he produced against that. So that would make you think that he goes in the 3rd round. Jacob Kamenecker, USA Today, round 3, pick 95, Kansas City Chiefs. This would be a very interesting pick because obviously with the Chiefs, like he's going to get so much national attention just by virtue of being on the Chiefs. And if he can produce with Patrick Mahomes, I mean, that could be the best case scenario for him. If literally this exact pick happens, round 3, pick 95 to the Chiefs, like that, if you're Skattebo, and you're reading that, like that's probably something you want. So that would be ideal for him. Charles Davis, NFL.com. Day 2 or day 3? What? Okay, come on, man. Like I know that these guys have a lot of things to do in leading up to the draft. If you're just saying, oh, day 2 or day 3, like, well, duh. What does that even mean? Give me a break. And then Dane Brugler, The Athletic, round 3, pick 95 to the Chiefs. There you go. Same analysis as Kamenecker. And then, late day 2 or early day 3. Okay, that at least gives me a little bit more detail, basically going into 3rd or 4th round. Is he going to be a guy you work in and get a lot of mileage out of in his production? I don't know. So there's questions about how he's used in the NFL. I don't know. I think he's going to fit in. And then that is all that Kristen Wong writes in this story. So kind of the 3rd round is where most of these analysis circle him as going. That I don't want to say I think you would take that as ASU. I think it's important. I don't know. I don't want to make too much of a big picture statement here, but like I think it would be a big deal for the program for him to go on Friday night and not have to wait until day 3 when that's when a lot of the air is let out of the balloon in terms of the draft. It's just much less people pay attention. I mean, a lot of people stop paying attention after round 1, but you get to, I think seasoned NFL fans are much more in tune with the 2nd and 3rd round because that there's a lot of guys that fall into those rounds who were projected to go in the 1st, and so there's some intrigue there. Lions also have a top 30 visit with Skattebo. Athlon Sports, Skattebo rumored as Chubb replacement for Cleveland. So there's a lot of teams that seem to like him. And there's a lot of predictions that he's going to go on Friday night. So we'll see. There's as a Seahawks fan, there's rumors of the Seahawks wanting to trade Kenneth Walker, and maybe he's a Kenneth Walker replacement in Seattle. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't really want them to trade Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker was insane in college. Kenneth Walker carried a Michigan. I think that Michigan State team he was on, their quarterback was Peyton Thorne. They won 11 games, I believe. And ASU did win the game that Skattebo missed. I don't even mean that to be but anyway, that's a Seahawks topic. So I would be interested if he went to the Seahawks, but looks like he'll go on Friday night. So that's a good outcome for him. And if you're him, I saw an interview during the season. He said he wanted to play at Arrowhead. Like if you're him, you want to go in that 95th pick to the Chiefs. You just do. So because he would get so much attention, and Andy Reid would find out good ways to use him too. So that would be an interesting wrinkle. The other question for ASU in this draft is if another player gets picked. There's really only 2 candidates, those being center Leif Fautanu and safety Shamari Simmons. I was looking at a 7-round mock earlier today, and no mention of either of them. I think Simmons should get drafted. He had I think it was at the Shrine Bowl. There was an ESPN article that listed him as one of the sleepers in the draft. Just by watching him these last 2 years, I think he's worthy of a 6th or 7th round selection on him. I don't want to comment too much on Fautani because I'm not an offensive line expert or anything. I think the fact that he was a 2-year starter on a Power 4 team and a starter on a team that made the college football playoff, like I think that has to mean something. But I'm not going to sit here and go too crazy about it with him. But I just think Simmons, he had the stats. He laid out some good hits. If you were watching the Texas game, like ASU's defense played better with him on the field. Now, granted, he also gave up. He was, partially responsible for the 4th and 13 conversion, right? So it's obviously not perfect. But as time goes on, like Matthew Golden might be the 2nd receiver taken in this draft behind Travis Hunter. So it's not like he got beat by some scrub. So I just think Shamari Simmons should be an NFL draft pick. I think it's a crime that there's a decent chance he'll have to be an undrafted free agent. So I don't have any. I mean, I can look up right now. Shamari Simmons NFL draft. There's not a whole lot out there. Yeah. So if he does get picked, he'll probably be like a 7th round pick. There's not a whole bunch of buzz around him. He wasn't invited to the combine. I think he is one of the 256 best players in this class, and he should be drafted. So that's unfortunate, but we'll see. Maybe my pessimism is proven wrong when it comes to Shamari Simmons. As for some other guys, I think the best player who has a good chance of catching on as an undrafted free agent is Melquan Stovall. Not like as a wide receiver. Like it's not like he tore it up this year as a wide receiver for ASU. The reason why I say him is because he is a reliable punt catcher and potentially punt returner. So that can be a pretty important thing for a NFL team, especially like later in the year where some guys get injured. You call him up from the practice squad and have him just be a reliable punt returner. He ran a 4.44 at the Big 12 Pro Day as well. So I think that should be something in his back pocket that can help him get on a roster. I wish the best for everyone else. I don't know exactly how it turns out with Xavier Raphael or Caleb McCullough or some other guys I haven't mentioned, but it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out in the next week. But hoping that Shamari Simmons or Lee Fautanu join Skattebo is hearing their names called this weekend. So, and another kind of side note is it'll be interesting to see how the Big 12 is represented. I think it's important. They're not going to be as many picks as they're not going to be as many picks as the Big 10 or SEC. Like that's out the window. Like don't even think about that. ACC is interesting because Miami will have some guys drafted. I don't know if Clemson has a really loaded class this year. I don't think Clemson has anyone projected to go in the first round. And right now for the Big 12, you have 3. You have Shedeur will likely be a first rounder. Travis Hunter, obviously, Tetero McMillan. And then that might be it in the first round. I can't really think of anyone else at the top of my head. I probably should. And then I know Iowa State will send some guys. Kansas State will send some guys. And that's kind of what I'm focusing in on is like ASU played pretty dang well against an Iowa State team that could have like 4 guys drafted, They played pretty well offensively against a Kansas State team that's going to have potentially 2 defensive backs drafted, and DJ Giddens as well. He broke off one run against ASU, but didn't really do a ton in that game either. So it'll be interesting to see how the Big 12 does. I think it would be a feather in their cap to finish as the team with the 3rd most picks, or the conference with the 3rd most picks. Although it's going to be a sizable gap between the Big 12 and the top 2 leagues. So there's that. All right. On to the current state of ASU football. the whole Nico Iamaleava holdout situation at Tennessee came and went. And despite a lot of online clamoring from Tennessee Volunteer fans, Sam Leavitt is still a Sun Devil. Now, granted, the portal closes on the 25th. I am not here to, ring alarm bells or anything. I think it's pretty clear that Sam Leavitt's going to stay. Jordan Tyson is going to stay. I saw today that they're having a football camp type thing for kids on the 24th. Or maybe it's I think it's the 24th. So that is a good sign that they're staying, right? And then the ASU Spring Showcase is on 5 p.m. on the 25th. So it looks like if players were going to leave, they would have left by now. And the players that have left of significance are not many, right? It's in terms of the scholarship players, it's been Ian Hershey, which makes sense as kicker. It's been Alta McCaskill as running back. He's very far down in the depth chart, and you got some young guys that have come in, and it makes sense. I feel like ASU seemed like a spot where you could just kind of regain his footing. And then JP Dieter, defensive tackle. That's the only one of some note, but I think that, just based on the offers he's getting, I saw that he was getting like Fresno State and like North Texas type of deal. So looks like he'll kind of go down into the group of 5 level. So, and apparently he was just kind of behind some guys on the depth chart there. So no one of real significance. And I think it's also instructive that they all kind of got in the portal at the same time. So, and then the one, obviously a bunch of walk-ons have been left as well due to the upcoming roster limits that are being imposed. The only one that I don't love, but I totally get why the kid did it, is quarterback Navi Bruzan. I think he could have been, if things go to plan and Leavitt does well in the 2025 season and enters the NFL draft, 2026, it's probably going to be too early for true freshman Jake Fetty, who was moved up to number 4 in the On3 ratings, which is pretty cool. Anyway, probably going to be too early for him. I don't know. Maybe Fetty will come in and be good and he'll just start as a true freshman. I'd be okay with that. I was kind of hoping that Bruzan could be the kind of temporary heir apparent to Leavitt following his potential departure. Without him, it leaves Butter Tollefson. Don't really have any thoughts on him, but he was a somewhat touted recruit. And then Jeff Sims will be gone, right? So there's probably a transfer that can come in, but I was kind of hoping to see Navi Bruzan in the post-Leavitt era, but looks like he will be moving on. Pretty good practice clips, I will say, from what I saw on Twitter. But again, it's just practice, so who knows? I do want to bring up the BYU lost 2 pretty significant contributors. Keelan Marion, who I believe scored a touchdown against ASU in BYU's failed comeback attempt in November. He was also an All-American returner. So, and he had some interest in ASU in the portal. I don't know if ASU will be able to get him. There's a lot of other teams coming after him, but that would be a good addition to get. And then their linebacker, Harrison Taggart, who had a really good year. So that's tough. And that's why I'm not writing anything in stone just yet when it comes to the ASU roster. It looks like, just based on the vibes, it looks like we're all good. I don't want to be a doomer or anything, but just having those 2 guys leave from BYU, that was a little, caught my eye. So, we'll see if those guys, what that situation is with those 2. The Tennessee thing, it's so funny that there was all this hubbub about, Tennessee's going to poach a Big 12 quarterback. And, there's a report that TCU's Josh Hoover is officially staying there. And that, had people infer that, okay, well, Tennessee probably asked around at Sam Levitt and Sawyer Robertson, and they likely turned them down. And then it comes out that like Levitt turned down other offers this past offseason to stay at ASU. And apparently the same was that Sawyer Robertson at Baylor. So those two are staying in the Big 12. And of course, they just end up taking Joey Aguilar, who was at UCLA, and then gets supplanted by Nico Iamaleava. It's just funny. It just turns out being a trade, an informal trade, that is, and just a weird world. But as a college football fan, like, if it's going to be a weird situation like that, I'm glad the domino effect of it was non-existent. Honestly, it's just, it turned out to be like, oh, okay, I guess we weren't able to shake away an impactful big time quarterback from elsewhere, but instead we're just going to get the guy who Nico replaced at UCLA, who was pretty good at App State. So I just think that's a pretty interesting kind of confluence of events. It seems like ASU, in terms of the players that they are interested in, is wide receiver. Obviously, you have Jordan Tyson. Jaron Hamilton has popped at camp, and I think that I'm not super worried about the wide receiver position because of him, but he's still a young player, and just because he's had some great practice highlights, that doesn't mean that he'll be a consistent player on Saturdays. You bring back Malik McClain, which I think people are kind of forgetting about, just because he didn't produce that much last year. But I think another year in the system, he can be someone you lean on. And then Jalen Moss as well. But I do think it's kind of interesting that they've been connected to Keelan Marion. I am showing right now a tweet from Chris Hummer that's showing Mark Hamper. So this is from Chris Hummer today, Tuesday the 22nd. Wisconsin wide receiver Mark Hamper has set a trio of visits, 22 to New Mexico, 23rd to Arizona State, 24th to Cal. Hamper ranks as the 16th player available in the 24/7 Sports Portal rankings. He had 966 yards and 6 touchdowns on 20 yards per catch last year for Idaho. The New Mexico connection makes sense because the Idaho coach went to New Mexico. Arizona State makes sense because Hamper and Levitt were teammates in high school. So that's an interesting one. And then Cal might be a little bit out of nowhere, but Cal has lost so many guys in the portal, in this spring portal, that they could be a little bit more desperate for production. So Hamper would be an interesting addition. I would be okay with it. And I think that the fact that him and Levitt kind of have a natural connection already would be appealing. And then there's another guy beyond Keelan Marion and beyond Mark Hamper, is Jonte Cook, former 5-star. He was visiting Arizona State this past weekend. He had been on Texas for 2 years, I believe, and then entered the portal before their playoff run. Was on Washington for 2 or 3 days. Got booted for conduct detrimental to the team. There's rumors that he got in a fight early on. There's reports that he's had theft stuff that's happened, and he is not exactly thought of as the most mature player in college football right now. So I do think it's interesting that ASU brought him in. At first glance, on April 18th, I tweeted from the account, not super enthused about this. I get bringing him in, but this guy has been drama everywhere he's been. After a few days, I'm a little bit more open to bringing in Jonte Cook. Because I think if you look at the original tweet from Anwar Richardson, former 5-star Jonte Cook is visiting Arizona State this weekend, per my sources. He's drawn interest from Houston, Oklahoma, BYU, Syracuse, Indiana, and Arkansas since entering the portal. So all of these teams know what the past issues with Jonte Cook have been. And the fact that he has 6 other Power 4 offers is interesting to me, right? that means that they're, including Arizona State, are aware that he's had some drama, as I've put it, but they're like, hey, you know what? Let's bring him in. Like, this dude has talent. So, and it's not, I mean, Oklahoma's on the list, BYU, Indiana is, a decent program now, right? Arkansas, like, it's not the total bottom of the barrel. So I think that's interesting. And I wonder if, like, I hate to say this, like, I wonder if he's kind of been humbled a little bit. I don't like talking about young athletes like that, but in his case, I think it's appropriate just because he's done some dumb stuff. And maybe after a few months of reflection and like, hey, like, I'm on the straight and narrow now, and all this, maybe he fits in at ASU. And if you pair, I mean, if you get him right and you pair him with Tyson, like, that is a nightmare for college defenses, right? Like, he's a 5-star who has shown talent in the past. It's not like he hasn't contributed at all. And so the hypothetical pairing of him with Tyson, that could really be good. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with Jonte Cook, where he ends up. If the red flags are too much, then he probably just won't end up at ASU, right? So, there's word about him. I think that Dillingham would probably be able to call some of the past coaches he's been with and get a straight answer from them too. So, something to watch. And I will say, if ASU does bring him in, not bring him in, officially sign him, then that means that they've done their kind of due diligence on him and they're like, you know what, this is a risk worth taking. And you get him locked in and rolling, and you pairing with Tyson, like, that's two extreme athletes for the defense to have to deal with, just at the wide receiver position. So that is something to watch for. My tone on April 18th, I am more positive about it now than I was before. Is that it with football? Oh, this wasn't on my Twitter page, but if you've been following ASU football, you know that former top recruit in the 2026 class, Israel Briggs, was seen visiting Michigan. And, I always kind of forget this, but Dillingham has the rule, like, if you're committed to ASU and then you visit another school, we're dropping you. And so that's what happened this time around. I kind of feel conflicted about this because I feel like I'm in like a 60-40 I agree mode, because I think Dillingham knows what he's doing and I understand why he has this rule. It also pairs with, he wants players who want to be here. And if you truly want to be at ASU, then you're not visiting Michigan after you've already committed, right? And with the transfer portal, you're basically getting ahead of this kid probably transferring anyway, right? If he says he's committed to ASU and then he's going to visit Michigan, he could just easily leave the first year he's at ASU either way. So it's kind of getting ahead of it. On the other hand, it is like you are limiting your recruiting potential. You just are, because not every kid is going to follow this. We saw this last year with Adrian Wilson. Now, maybe Dillingham was kind of proven right with Adrian Wilson, the wide receiver, who I believe he was committed to like Oregon and TCU and then committed to ASU, then visited Colorado, commits to Colorado, leaves Colorado in this recent spring window, goes to North Carolina. So like that's already like in the span of like 2.5 years, just all these schools he's been connected to or committed to. And so maybe it's just kind of getting ahead of it with someone who just is a little more flaky. So there's that. And while I could see people rolling their eyes at this rule, and there's a part of me that does as well, just in this world of college football, all of the other kids that are committed do seem to follow it, right? that's the thing that I come back to is like, well, like Jake Fetty seems to be following this rule. Like all these other kids that are connected seem to be following this rule. So there's that. And the other thing is like in terms of positions where ASU can actually afford loss from a recruiting perspective, it's been tight end, right? Like they've bringing in 4-star tight ends hasn't been the issue, especially with, you look at the 2 last years, right? You bring in 4-star Jaden Fortier, you bring in 4-star AJ Ia, who's been just dominating at camp. And it looks like he'll have a role this year with ASU. You've brought in good transfers, right? With Shimon Mateer and the Kamari Anderson from Kentucky. So like, it is a position of strength already. And to go on top of it, apparently ASU's second tight end, Hayden Vircher, has been upgraded to a 4-star on the 24/7 composite. So when you add all that stuff up, it's like, yeah, it sucks to lose this guy. He's probably going to be a good tight end. But it looks like ASU isn't necessarily like desperate to have a good tight end because they already have some. So I don't totally love his rule with that, because even though I like, I like what Dillingham is doing, obviously, like he's doing a good job as coach. I also don't want to fall into the trap of just like defending everything he does, because that's just not how people work. And so that's kind of the balance I'm thinking of with this. But at the same time, like it's one tight end. It is a clear rule. And also if you're Briggs, like just don't commit then. That's kind of the thing. Like you can just commit in November, right? You can take all these visits, and if you still like ASU after that, then you can commit. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. It would be nice to have him, but oh well. All right. Well, that's enough positive talk. Now time to get to ASU men's basketball, baby. Okay. ASU men's basketball. Oh boy. Man. It is tough to make a fun transition into this. So we know where some of the guys are going after last check. We knew Sinan, St. John's, Quaintance, Kentucky, Nunez, UTSA, Sean Phillips going to Missouri, Amir Ali going to Mississippi State, Bryson Long going to Portland State. And after waiting a bit, Adam Miller decided to enter the transfer portal. I cannot blame him one bit. If it's your last year of ball, I would not want to spend it on this ASU team. So Godspeed and good luck, Adam Miller. Hopefully you can cash in one more NIL bag and maybe get to the NBA. I don't know. You got a good shooting stroke, so we'll see. There's our one returner from last year. Literally our only returner is Trevor Best, who was 17 years old last year. I just it's funny that ASU actually isn't the only team that's in this position, with Baylor as the team that lost literally everyone from their last team. And they've won a national championship in recent memory, which is just so hilarious. These top three guys, Mo Odom from Pepperdine, Marcus Adams Jr. from Cal State Northridge, Andrew Mukeba from Oakland. We knew them. I continue to think that Marcus Adams Jr. is a good pickup. Then you get Adante Holloman, who is another 6-foot guard. 6-foot guard. He was the leading scorer in the Sun Belt, coming from Georgia Southern, where he averaged 16.9 points per game, 2.3 assists, 2.3 rebounds. So he's really just kind of a scoring guard. They weren't that great of a team. Shot 38.6% from three. He's a decent pickup. I'm not going to say too much. He doesn't really have the size that is encouraging, but if you can drop 17 points and be the leading scorer in a conference, like there's some level of talent there. Then it really, I don't want to be too disrespectful to these kids, but the talent level drops off. Bryce Ford from Toledo. He went to Pinnacle High School, averaged 7.1 points at Toledo and shot 43% from the field, 37% from the free 3-point line. that is uninspiring. Cool to have a local kid back. I'm sure he wanted to play for ASU growing up, or maybe he did. I don't know. Not the most inspiring addition. I won't lie. Santiago Troy from San Diego. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. This is a 6'10". Where's this guy? 6'10" forward, originally from Argentina. Averaged 8.7 points and 6.8 rebounds. At San Diego last year, shot 44% from the field, 20% from three. Oh boy, he just feels like a big body. 20% from three is pretty uninspiring, to put it lightly. So you give those two guys. Now we go to the incoming recruits. You still have John Pitt. You still have Marcus Jackson, the 4 stars, which good for them. Good for Bobby to land those guys. Frederick Leo Curtis from Iceland decommits. You still have Cash Polk, and then you get this guy VJ Wallace, 6'6" guard from a place called Triton College outside of Chicago. Scored just under 16 points per game, just under 6 rebounds, 47% from the field, 30% from three. He was originally committed to University of Missouri, Kansas City, and open. I mean, that's not exactly someone who was the most sought after. So there's that. He does provide some size. And then you get this guy, Andrija Gravovic, 6'9" perimeter player from Montenegro. He played on a team called SC Derby, which is in the Adriatic League. Scored 7.6 points and 3.2 rebounds per game. Shot just under 45% from three, and does have some professional experience. So I actually think he's kind of a decent addition. At least he has a well-defined role. But when you add it all up and go through it, like this has a team that could finish. This could be the worst team in the Big 12. And unlike last year, where you were the second worst team in the Big 12, but it felt like you had better talent than that, if this team finishes worse in the Big 12, it's going to be hard to say that they underachieved. This roster is not super impressive. It's just not. Because, sure, you have the 2 4 stars, right? John Pitt, Marcus Jackson. It's a lot to ask for these guys to really make contributions as 4-star true freshmen. And then Marcus Adams Jr. is a good pickup. I trust Mo Odom and Holloman in the backcourt, but these Odom and Holloman are both 6 feet. They're both 6 feet tall. They're not 6'2". They're 6 feet. So that's a pretty normal sized dude. And you're playing against Kansas. You're playing against BYU is going to be a freight train next year. Arizona is going to be incredible. Like, you're going to get some big time opponents. So I just, Mukeba, he's a 6'6" center. Like, yeah, he's physical, but that's still giving up a lot of size. And then you just Bryce Ford averaged 7 points at Toledo. Troy didn't do that much at San Diego. Okay, they're your bench. Cash Polk, 3-star forward. Okay, maybe he does better than people think. VJ Wallace, a guy who was recently committed to UMKC, and then the guy from Montenegro. I'm just kind of doing that. And you do have Trevor Best, so that's actually a decent. So let's say your backcourt is Odom and Best. You have Adams, Mukeba, and then let's say Marcus Jackson. That's your starting 5. You have Pitt, Holloman, and Pitt and Holloman off the bench, and Pitt, Holloman, and Grabovic off the bench as your main contributors. Then you have Wallace, Polk, Ford and Troué is depth. I don't know, man. Like this could be rough. This could be rough, and it just kind of signals like it just feels like this is the end of the road for Hurley. It's another reminder of it was a mistake to bring him back, and if it was solely about money, I hope that's the case, right? Because otherwise, like, there's no other reason to bring back Hurley. Again, I've defended Hurley on this show. I'm not a Hurley hater in the sense, like, I understand there's a lot of things working against you at ASU men's basketball, but again, like, that doesn't mean you get an unlimited leash. And last year, I just think was the perfect time to cut bait. I don't know, like. I remember going to the last game at Desert Financial Arena against Texas Tech where they're getting blown out, and it was a bad crowd, and it was a stretch of a lot of bad crowds, and I just can't even imagine what the crowds are going to be like next year. And I guess, like, I can't imagine it because they're probably not going to be that much worse than they were this year. But I guess the thing from that perspective is, like, this team is way worse from a roster talent standpoint, but from the average fan, like, it's one bad team and another bad team. Like, they're both just going to be bad teams. The difference is last year's team was losing a lot of close games. This upcoming year, I don't know. Like, I'm trying not to be too negative here, but it's hard for me to really see a way out of this that's even, like, okay, I mean, that means you're asking a lot from Marcus Adams Jr. You're asking a lot from these two 4-star freshmen. You're asking a lot from Mo Odom, from Mukeba, and from Holloman. Like, it's just it's a lot to ask. You're asking a lot from Trevor Best. Yeah, I just think it's going to be ugly. I don't know what I think. If Hurley is smart, he should be wise with his non-conference schedule. I think that, like, pushing your team to the limit, I don't know what that really is going to accomplish in the non-conference. Like, I think there is value in. As I say this, I'm disagreeing with myself because I was going to say there's value in, like, starting strong from a non-conference standpoint, but that literally happened last year and it all fell apart in the new year pretty much. So yeah, I mean, if there's anyone related to these players watching, I'm sorry for being a Debbie Downer. All of these players are a million times better at basketball than I ever was. So I want to, make that clear. And, I mean, maybe this guy from Montenegro is a good shooter. I mean, maybe it just translates. Again, maybe Cash Polk is way better than we think. And one of these 4-stars hits, and Holloman and Odom and Best just can all score at a high clip, and Marcus Adams Jr.'s production continues, and Mukeba's physicality translates to the Big 12. But that's a lot to ask for. So I just think if you're a fan of ASU, you just kind of got to grit through this next season and wave off the coaching staff at the end of it. It's just, there's been some rumors about Desert Financial Arena getting renovated. That news will come out in the summer. I hope so. It's decades past time for that to happen, but I don't really know how that impacts this last season of Hurley's, or this potential last season of Hurley's tenure. I just think this is going to be a grind, and it's just going to be a tough product to sell. There's not a Jaden Quaintance you can put on the marquee. There's not a Joson Sandin you can put on the marquee. Like, it's there's not an Adam Miller even, right? Like, it's your only returner is Trevor Best, and you're banking on guys who are at lower levels. Like, no one is coming in from a power four. Like, a lot of these guys, it's clear, like, this is their one opportunity to play Power 4 basketball. I don't know if that's true for Marcus Adams Jr. I wouldn't put in that group, and I'd probably not Odom. But everyone else, like these guys scored under 10 points per game at lower levels. Holloman and Mukeba probably didn't have a ton of power. I don't know. I don't know all their each person's recruit, but they probably didn't have many high major offers. So it's not looking good. That's all I can say. All right, on to baseball. Not looking as bad as it was, right? So ASU is 5th in the Big 12 after winning a series against Texas Tech 2-1. They really that game on Friday night, of course, gets rain delayed, and they had to finish it up the next morning. ASU wins 9-8. It's you're 25-15 overall, which is okay. It's solid. I checked, some of the bracketology for college baseball, and they have the ASU as a 3 seed, which at this point I will take. Like it's just the bullpen is just such a red flag. It is such a detriment to this team. It cost you 2 games over the previous weekend in the Midwest. You had a chance to take the series from Cincinnati on Sunday. You blow it in the 9th. Have a chance to win a road game at Purdue. You blow it in the 9th. I know that Willie Bloomquist mentioned that some of the players are receiving some awful stuff on social media. That has to stop. Like, they're still college kids. These guys aren't getting paid that much money. I mean, I just think if you're a grown adult, just tweeting some horrible stuff at college kids playing college baseball who are not making much money. I mean, really at any athlete, honestly, but it's even worse for these kids. Like you're just scum of the earth. And it's pretty sad that like this stuff is something that kids have to anticipate and deal with. So that's horrible. Just from an on paper, like perspective, like the bullpen has not been good. And I'm just going to say the bullpen I'm not singling out any single player. Although Cole Carlone, on the positive side, he's been awesome. He's helped them win a few games. So good for him. Otherwise, it's been an issue. It's not horrible, right? Like, again, like you're 5th in the conference. You are most likely going to make the NCAA tournament if you just kind of hold serve the rest of the way. But it's tough. Like you lost the season series to U of A. You lose at Cincinnati. Like that's just, I'm sorry. Like I know Cincinnati's not bad this year, but no, like you shouldn't be struggling against Cincinnati. They play at Grand Canyon tonight. Late or it's at 7. Okay, it's 9 Central. Okay, so it's at 7. BYU, Long Beach State, at Baylor, at Houston, Oklahoma State. So not the toughest stretch. It's a good thing you miss West Virginia this year. You took 2 or 3 from Kansas. You took 2 or 3 from TCU. Baylor's kind of at your level. They've been worse in the Big 12. But Cincinnati is worse than you in the Big 12, and you just lost a series to them. But, I mean, BYU is not good at all. Oklahoma State isn't good. So there's wins on this schedule. It's important for this ASU team to just shore up some things. And if you do that, then you'll be able to win more of these series and get a few more sweeps, and that'll puff up your record a bit more. And if by some way you can become a 2 seed in a regional somewhere, that is, obviously that's better, and that just gives you a much better chance to advance. So I will say, like the series went over Texas Tech. That was pretty big just to kind of regain some stability. And of course, the schedule is not showing up, but I went through it earlier. So not the hardest schedule left anyway. But I think the problem is, like, even if this team does make the NCAA tournament, the baseball NCAA tournament, like there's no real expectation or justifiable reason to think that they're going to advance just because they just have some fatal flaws, and you're kind of just hoping that the bats get really hot and you can just kind of outscore teams and move on. But that seems like a tough thing to do. So anyway, all right, good to catch up with some ASU sports stuff. I've seen that women's basketball is killing it in the portal. Molly Miller appears to be a great hire so far. It's good that kind of an obvious hire seems to be obviously working so far. Again, they haven't played any games, but that's a good thing to see. I saw that Cullen Potter from the ASU men's hockey team was named to one of the United States teams for his age. That's pretty cool. And a lot of those guys have been making plays in the minor leagues of hockey. So, in a few years, we can see some of these guys. We can see Artem Schlein and I'm forgetting who the other one was. But we can see some of these guys playing in the NHL right away. And again, that's great for ASU hockey. I'm just spring game or spring showcase should be fun. Hoping to see a pretty good crowd there. Doesn't need to be crazy. Saw some billboards around the valley. That should help, and just along with the natural growth that comes with winning the conference and having some star level players. I think just to step back, just the level that ASU football has turned around. It's easy to say in a year, but really in the last 2 years, right? Like, I guess you could really say in a year, because at this time last year, right, like we didn't know anything about Samlet. Like we thought he could be good, but there was no guarantee of anything. And when Jaden Rashada entered the portal, that no one knew how that would play out. And you have Elijah Badger enter the portal. And I'll say this: I hope that Elijah Badger gets drafted. I've seen him as like a 7th round pick. He's an NFL player. I think it's a little bit annoying that he left a ASU team that turned out to be very good, but at the same time, I understand it had to have been because of money, right? Like, that's just no judgment. Totally understand that. Had to have been because of money. He did well. He did pretty well at Florida, and I imagine he didn't know that Levitt would end up being as good as he was at that time. But I don't know. It would have been nice to have Elijah Badger on the field in the Texas game, because I think that probably might have been the difference in ASU winning that game. It would have been in regulation, but oh well. I can't complain too much about the transfer portal, right? Like, the fact that they got to the Texas game anyway and had chances to win it in other aspects is perfectly fine. So anyway, hoping that Elijah Badger gets drafted. I think that he can really produce for an NFL roster. I think that just a solid receiver, and he's a better athlete than probably the numbers show. So we'll be rooting for him to get drafted, along with Jalen Conyers as well. Saw that he's like a 7th round pick too. I think he's a better athlete than that. I think he should go higher than that, but we'll see. I am not a pro scout at all, and I don't claim to be. So anyway, let's hope that Skattebo gets drafted on Friday night. 2nd round would be awesome. 3rd round seems most likely. Hoping for Simmons, or one of Simmons and or Fautanu, to get picked as well. And for ASU baseball, just keep on chugging. Just keep winning the series that you're capable of winning. All right. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. And as always, go Sun Devils.